Mongolia is one of the few countries in our globalized and increasingly equal planet to ride on the back of a horse without any limit.
In 2005, Mila and I traveled to northern Mongolia on the back of her brave little horses, accompanied by our translator Chuka and our guide Dasha, from Lake Khovsgol to the Ulan Mountains in the eastern taiga, home of the reindeer herders, the Tsaatan.
18 years later, in 2023, we have returned to the re-encounter with the Darkat and the Tsaatan, but this time accompanied by our two daughters, Uxue, 12 years old, and Garazi, 9 years old.
In chapters 2 and 3, we told you that on August 5th, 2023, we began our horseback journey in the village of Khovsgol, south of Lake Khovsgol. It took us 3 days along the lakeshore to reach a small plain called Jiglegim, and another 2 days to cross the pass between the Corridor-Saridag Mountains and the Bayan Mountains to reach Renchinelkunbe, one of the two villages in the Darkat Depression. In total, 125 kilometers, averaging 25 kilometers per day.
In Renchinelkunbe, to our surprise, we were met again by Dasha, our guide on the 2005 trip, and his wife, Bimba. They welcomed us into their home, where we shared pleasant moments reminiscing about that unforgettable journey. In the village, we also stocked up on food for the next 6 days, until we reached the village of Tsaganursan, north of the Darkat Depression.
On the 6th and 7th days, we pushed northward across the vast steppe stretching through the Darkat Depression, until at last we reached the foothills of the Sayan Mountains.
On the 8th day, we left the open plains behind and entered the taiga. After a long and demanding journey, we finally arrived at the eastern camp of the Tsaatan, also known as the reindeer people.
The Sayan Mountains are a mountain range in southern Siberia, stretching across southeastern Russia and northern Mongolia.
The camp stood half empty, as the bare conical frames revealed. We had arrived on the very day they were migrating from their early summer camp, located 5 or 6 hours to the north at a higher elevation. They return here to spend the end of summer and the beginning of autumn in this southern camp at a lower altitude, around 1,800 meters above sea level. Some of the younger members of the community had gone ahead with the entire herd of reindeer.
Like Dengar, who offered to rent us his family's teepee for 2 nights.
Garazi is the one who seems to enjoy the reindeer the most. They approach her without hesitation, gently licking the salt from her hand, a vital mineral and not easily found in their natural diet.
It is striking to see how the reindeer's antlers are wrapped in a soft, velvety layer.
As the families begin to arrive, they raise their tipis once again. The conical wooden frames, made of 10 to 20 poles, remain standing at the camp. Only the coverings are transported from one seasonal site to another.
In the past, the coverings were made from reindeer hides. Today, they rely on strong, waterproof canvases imported from Russia.
A green plastic sheet is hung over the entrance, allowing more light to fill the interior.
They then put together the metal stove, arriving in pieces, ready to be assembled inside the teepee. Even the chimney arrives disassembled. Made of several thin metal tubes, it is surprisingly light and easy to carry. All that's left is to fit the sections together. A gap is left at the top, letting smoke rise out and fresh air flow in.
Across the camp, another family is putting the finishing touches on their teepee. The door, typically made from the same fabric, functions like a flap that can be opened or closed.
Almost without noticing, everyone had arrived, and the whole camp was alive and in motion.
This is one of Mongolia's last reindeer communities. Today, only around 300 Tsaatan remain, divided between two main regions, the eastern taiga, where we find ourselves with about 18 families, and the western taiga, home to roughly 14 families.
The Tsaatan cultivate nothing, relying solely on their reindeer. The herds migrate 6 to 8 times a year, traveling between 150 and 250 kilometers in total. These delicate animals must keep moving constantly, for the moss they eat is scarce and spread thin across the taiga.
To get essentials like tobacco, tea, flour, sugar, or salt, they harvest the antlers from their reindeer and sell them. The antlers are traded with Mongolian merchants, who in turn sell them to China, where they are believed to hold aphrodisiac powers.
Reindeer herding in the Sian region goes back to the late 1st millennium AD. It was carried out by the Evenk people across a vast expanse of eastern Siberia, northern Mongolia, and northeastern China, mostly within the taiga. They spoke a Tungusic language, closely related to Manchu, once spoken in what is now northeastern China.
The Tsaatan descend from the Evenk people, yet they speak Duka, a Turkic language closely related to Tuvan. Living alongside the Tuvans for generations, they gradually adopted the Tuvan tongue. Many Evenk groups lost their traditional way of life due to Sovietization.
The Tsaatan fled the Tuva region during World War II after Tuva was annexed by the Soviet Union in 1944. They finally settled in northern Mongolia, maintaining their traditional way of life. Today, about 300 Tsaatan remain, living in around 30 families.
As daylight fades, families light their stoves one by one. Smoke curls from each chimney, announcing the approach of night.
In our teepee, the scene repeats. Uxue and Garazi feed branches into the stove and the small flame begins to dance. It's time to go to bed. It has been a long and emotional day.
At first light, the Tsaatan are already on the move. In the distance, the echoes of chainsaws and the sharp strikes of axes ring through the forest. The men venture into the woods to collect the firewood that will keep the stove alive inside the teepee.
Meanwhile, the women begin selecting the reindeer for milking. The reindeer are milked a couple of times a day, providing butter, cheese and yogurt. But their diet is not limited to milk. They also eat meat and wild berries from the forest.
What catches our attention is that some teepees have a reindeer tied close by, the sacred reindeer. Chosen by certain families, it protects them from curses and illness, acting as the guardian of their joy and well-being.
Jentzektuk, the camp's shaman, also has her sacred reindeer. She welcomes us with tea, shows curiosity about our journey, and offers to perform a shamanic ritual tonight to invoke good fortune and drive away evil spirits.
Between tastings of reindeer milk offered by other families, we meet Zaya. Born and raised in Ulaanbaatar, she worked in the United States and speaks English fluently. After falling in love with a Tsaatan man, she left the skyscrapers and cosmopolitan life behind for the teepees, embracing this ancient way of life with ease.
The hospitality continues with Nomin and her family. The most magical moment comes when we show them a photograph of the 103-year-old shaman that Mila and I met at another camp back in 2005. A stunned recognition spreads across their faces. It was her grandmother. In that instant, a deep emotion envelops us all, connecting our past journey with the present through an unexpected family thread.
After lunch, Nomin leads us into the forest to reveal its secrets. It is there that she finds herself, in harmony with the surrounding nature.
We collect tender shoots of wild garlic from the forest floor. We also gather the bark of a tree, used like chewing gum, with a taste reminiscent of ginger.
Eat.
She is now studying to become a teacher in Ulaanbaatar, but in the city, she misses her life in the taiga. That is why she hopes to teach in the nearby village of Tsaatan, close to the taiga. The earth beneath our feet is soft and springy, like a natural carpet cushioning every step.
She points out the moss the reindeer feed on, so slow to grow that the animals must constantly roam in search of new pastures.
The reindeer also eat all kinds of mushrooms, from the tiniest to the largest.
We are amazed by the abundance of blueberries growing in these forests, along with other fruits that, according to Nomin, are good for the eyes. Without hesitation, she climbs the large branches in search of another fruit. I watch her anxiously, afraid she might fall.
She says this place is a bear's den.
And so, wandering aimlessly, we follow her footsteps through the forest until, without realizing it, we find ourselves back at the camp.
Nomin woman gestures toward the dense forest, and her brother appears, riding a reindeer. Behind him, 5 more reindeer follow, burdened with the logs the family men have cut.
Without wasting a moment, the mother and sisters help unload the wood so he can return to the forest for another load.
Sometime later, her father and husband emerge from the forest, leading the reindeer once again, this time fully loaded.
Mila, kari medisinyak. Kari medisinyak. Medisinyak.
Riding their reindeer, the day slowly fades. A brief dinner awaits us, followed by the long-anticipated meeting with Jentzektuk, the shaman.
Jentzektuk asks us not to record the ritual. She dons her ceremonial attire with the help of her daughter, who hopes to succeed her as shaman one day. While the young woman prepares a bundle of herbs, she lights it and waves the smoke to drive away evil spirits.
Then she begins chanting a series of mantras to communicate with the spirits, the animals, and her ancestors, in a manner similar to what is shown in this video. Accompanied by the steady beat of the drum and circular movements that continue for an hour, the scene becomes enveloped in a thick, mysterious smoke.
The shaman wears a special reindeer hide outfit, adorned with colorful ribbons and small pieces of metal carefully sewn in, a set that, despite its beauty, is extremely heavy.
Her role is to guide people through their problems and worries.
She has blessed us, warding off evil spirits to ensure a safe journey.
And so we go to sleep in our tipi, knowing this will be our last night with these Tsaatan families. For Mila and me, it is both fascinating and moving to see that 18 years later, the Tsaatan are still surviving.